Okay, Michael, I'm going to go ahead and get started. First, did you have any questions about the week? Or about last week?
Um, no, I know I still haven't done Fridays, which was confusing a little bit. You're talking about the 10 TED steps, and I had to look it up because I didn't see where that was coming from.
The 10 TED Commandments?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that link used to work, but I'm guessing that it doesn't anymore. So I'm going to have to address that. But
Well, I didn't see a link there. I saw it highlighted, but there wasn't a link.
Oh, really?
And also, is it any video that we can choose, but under 18 minutes?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it was you had to choose one of the longer videos, so it was
Okay.
among the videos that were 18 to 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. It can be slightly over 18.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna try and get that to you then today.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. And at this point, the assignment is closed, so you'll have to submit it through the late submission form.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk through this week. And if you have any questions about the assignments as I go through, go ahead and ask them. Yeah. Okay. So this is our week 2 update. And I'm going to start this out by just looking at the calendar. So here's the calendar that we're going with. So today, the only thing that's due are the review questions. So following this meeting, there are some questions that you want to answer, and you'll see those at the end of the video. Tomorrow, you need to have met with your group for Google Hangouts. And so we're going to go over that meeting agenda just in case you haven't had that meeting yet. And also, there is an extra credit option for your visual introduction assignment, and that is to complete an outline using the speech class outline tool. And if you choose to do that, that will be due tonight. There's a reading quiz.
Tuesday, rather. Is it
Yes, sorry
Tuesday?
about that. Tuesday. That will be due on Tuesday. That's why I'm looking at the calendar. Okay. There will be a go-to meeting on on Wednesday, talking about how to make visuals and really make effective slides for this show. And so that will be happening Wednesday. Also on Wednesday, your reading quiz is due, so that will be the reading quiz that you can see through the assignments on speech class. And that quiz, and you can take that quiz at least 3 times, so you can get the grade that you really want to get on that quiz. Thursday, there is a discussion board. So there's another question that you need to post a discussion and a response to. And Friday, you have both your visual introduction assignment, and your response to somebody else's visual introduction. And then finally, over the weekend, this industry speech is going to open up. And so what you will want to do is start to practice for your industry speech, because that's what you will be working on with your pair practice for next week. So there's not really any time off in this class. The moment something is done, the next assignment will open up. And especially for the pair practice and meeting with your partner, if you wait until Tuesday to get that done, you're going to have a really hard time completing that. So make sure you go ahead and start, because you need to have your outline for that pair practice. It's really important to start putting your industry speech together as soon as you can see that assignment. All right. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the Google Hangouts meeting. All right, so the Google Hangouts meeting is something that you have to complete in 2 parts. So the first part really means just meeting with your group, getting to know them, getting their Google, making Google Hangouts work, stuff like that. Part 2 excuse me, involves cutting down the recording of your group meeting and posting your favorite part of the practice, and then answering reflection questions. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to meet with the group that you scheduled your meeting with on last Tuesday. And we're using this video chat format, Google Hangouts. Now, Google Hangouts, the reason I'm asking you guys to use that is because it allows multiple people to video chat at the same time. In public speaking, a lot of times we are very separated from each other. So this really allows us to have some of that synchronous communication that we associate with Google Hangouts. Also, it lets you get to know some of your classmates. These are the people you're going to be getting feedback from this month, and so this gives you an opportunity to get to know them, get to know what they're like, and actually create a little bit of trust. Because once you've actually seen somebody, it makes you a little bit more likely to value their feedback, trust them, stuff like that. And finally, the exercises that you will be doing are exercises that can be done to help you improve your speaking skills. Now, a lot of them are goofy, and a lot of times the reason I include some goofy things is because when we get into that sense of play, we're a little bit more likely to take risks, and public speaking definitely is risky. We're doing things that we don't always do. So if once we get into that sense of play, it makes us a little bit more likely to take the risks that we need to really be successful. So I've given you guys an agenda. And the agenda is pretty simple. First, we make sure everybody's gear is working. So that means your video equipment, your mics, your QuickTime screen recording. When you're working with your QuickTime, you want to make sure that your mic is working. And when you get that little box up here, you see you'll have the red button, the red recording button, and down below it, you might have an arrow on the right side. If you click that arrow, you have the opportunity to choose which mic you're using. And you want to use the mic, the automatic mic that's attached to your computer. Okay, so once you start your meeting, go ahead and introduce yourselves. Introduce yourselves one at a time, and see if you can remember everybody's name. It feels good when people remember your name, so work to do that. The first game is a 10 fingers game. The second game is about translating gibberish. And game number 3 is about practicing some tongue twisters. So moving on to 10 fingers, here's the description. Everybody is going to show up on Google Chat, and you're going to hold up your 10 fingers. And so one at a time, you're asking people questions that are yes or no. So some of your questions can get really goofy. Some of them can be kind of fun. So I have a cat. If you don't have a cat, then you would drop your finger. I have a dog. If you don't have a dog, you would drop your finger. And so you want to say things that are honest about yourself, so that you can start to have things to talk about with other people. Okay, the translating gibberish game. This is a game that sometimes people feel a little goofy playing. And so what this is about is about body language. So it's not about translating the word correctly necessarily. It's really about what do you think this person was trying to say. And whatever you translate, it turns into what it was. So if I'm making I don't know, I guess this is hard without video chat, you can't see me right now. But if I were to make a fist and I was to say, "Abada," and somebody translated that as, "Give me your money." Even if I was trying to say I'm angry, "Give me your money" is now what I meant. And that's fine. And we all laugh, and it's funny. And it talks about, it's about the body language that we're using. So what body language indicated to that person that I was saying, "Give me your money"? And so maybe it was the fist. Maybe it was that my eyebrows were furrowed. I don't know. Maybe it was the tone of voice. So there are things, this game is really goofy. So don't take it too seriously. Just have fun. And don't worry about it. And I think the notes here are really great. Go ahead and read those notes. So part 2 for the Google Hangouts meeting is about saving your recording in a place you can easily find it and cutting down the part of your participation. So what I want to see on this is that you were participating in the game. Pick your favorite part. If it was a part that you thought was really funny, go ahead and upload that. If it was a part that you thought you were really successful at, go ahead and upload that. It's about you picking 2 minutes so that I can see that you were playing an active role in the meeting. And then you can have a Word document where you're going to have those reflection questions. So the very first reflection question is a check for speech class. Okay? So if you were unable to post your video on speech class website, go ahead and upload your video to YouTube, put the link to that YouTube video right here. Now this is really a last resort because speech class gives you the option to embed your video from YouTube into speech class. If you see that third tab in speech class, so you can embed that. I encourage you to do that before you use this. This is the last resort. But you will still get credit if you do use this. So that's important. Second, what was your favorite part of the meeting? So sometimes these meetings can be really fun. What really worked for you? What was your least favorite part of the meeting? What did you find really not fun? What did you learn from these exercises? So sometimes you learn about your peers. Sometimes you learn that tongue twisters are hard. Sometimes you learn a little bit about body language. I don't know. What'd you learn? And how do you plan to practice for the speeches you present in this class? So hopefully you learned a little bit about practicing and what the difference is between practicing by yourself and practicing with people. So how do you plan to be strategic about your practice? Simply writing your speech the day of and then saying it over and over again until the video works? That's okay, but there are ways to make it less stressful, more productive, and help you learn more. So that is the Google Hangouts assignment. Michael, you're here. Any questions?
What do you suggest for number 5?
Practicing your speeches. Well, a lot of that is practicing with people. I mean, one of the reasons that we have the Google Hangouts is to help you find some people that you might be able to practice with. I also recommend practicing with people who are there with you in person. I practice chunking your speech. I recommend chunking your speech down into parts and telling the different parts like they're separate stories so that you can find different phrasing each time you say them. You know how when you tell a joke, you might tell a joke 15 different ways depending on the person you're telling it to, right? But you're still going to use similar-ish words. While the phrasing will vary, it'll be similar-ish. While the structure of the joke may vary, it'll be similar-ish. But the more you tell a joke, the more likely the punchline is to hit right. So it's not about memorizing your speech verbatim. It's about finding a natural way to tell the story that you want to tell. And also, it's about finding stories that really work. So, like, even when you get that first draft of your outline, run it by a few people and see how they respond. If you're one of those people who has trouble making things sound natural, what I recommend is try to tell the story of your speech to somebody without even thinking about your outline and record yourself. Pay attention to the vocal variation you use when you're actually just having a conversation. And then go back and watch that video, and then see how you can mimic that kind of vocal variation. I don't know. A lot of it is finding the joy, finding the stories that you like to tell. I mean, there are a lot of stories we can include in a speech, but if I'm telling a story that I think is lame, it's going to sound like I think it's lame. So it's finding stuff that we enjoy. And so a lot of that's trial and error. Does that help at all?
Yeah, it does.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Okay, so we're going to move forward to the next assignment. And so we talked about Google Hangouts. Okay, the visual introduction outline. So let's see. I had this up. I don't think I do anymore. Okay. So I really like this outline feature. I think it's helpful. So I'm going to show you where it is. There are also really specific directions on FSO that tell you how to reach this outline. Oh, I've got a lot going on my computer. I hope this works. Excellent. But I feel like this feature really helps you organize your thoughts. And so the visual introduction assignment is going to be pretty short, and that's intentional. It's only I believe it's a 1 to 3 minute speech. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But anytime that we work to organize something, this is helpful. Okay, so we're going to go into course materials. And within course materials, you're going to see this Bedford Speech Outliner. So you see it saves previous outlines, but you're going to want to make a new outline. You're going to have your speech topic, so maybe your speech topic is my favorite hobby. And maybe your speech title. Your speech title is going to do with something that's specific about your topic, right? So how puppets changed my life. Okay, so it's going to be an informative speech, and we don't need to have these things. So we're going to create the outline. Okay, so what do my listeners know about the topic? So all of these things are really important when we're trying to analyze our audience, right? So we want to think about, what does your audience know? So if you're going to talk about your hometown, what does your audience know about your hometown? What are their preconceived ideas? And this gives us a jumping off point, right? So we don't just want to have a tourist manual for our hometown. We want to have that insider look. What was your personal experience? So if I'm going to talk about puppetry and how it changed my life, so what do my listeners know about the topic? They probably know about Team America, World Police, Sesame Street, kid stuff. How do they think about it? Well, they think it's kid stuff. Maybe they think it's weird. So what can I do to reinforce or create a positive attitude? And so that's another thing, right? So I would show maybe I would talk about puppet slams. Talk about the art side.
Puppet slams.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
You're going to have to explain that to me later.
If you Google puppet slams, it's basically an open mic night for puppetry. And they have them in a lot of places. And so why will your audience be present for your speech? Okay, so what do they expect to hear? Okay, so we're expecting student speeches. We're expecting to learn about each other. And so you're going to want to go ahead and fill all of these out. Now your demographics, you're going to know a little more, right? Because you've already met your, at least your group. And what's your speech setting going to be? So the speech setting is this online class, right? So when you get to the bottom of here, you're going to save. And we're moving on to the next part. So you see these arrows up here. So write a specific purpose that expresses in action form what you hope to achieve with your speech. So maybe you want to, and this goes back to the assignment sheet, right? So go back and see what the assignment sheet tells us about what the purpose is. So this is part of the purpose of the assignment, but that maybe isn't the reason you're speaking, right? So we want to find a reason that we're speaking that's about what you hope to achieve. So you're hoping to teach, or maybe for my speech, I would be hoping to teach audience about a hobby special to me, something to that effect. So we save that, we move forward. So we're going to write a thesis statement. The thesis statement is right here. It's a declarative sentence expressing a theme central for your speech. And so the title that I did earlier might actually work for my thesis statement, right? And so then you're going to go through. And these are the different ways that we could organize this. So if I was going to talk about, I'm saying how puppets changed my life, so that might be chronological. I might be going in a sequential order, right? Time or actions. Maybe I want to talk about the different types of puppetry. So maybe I want to talk about Muppets, and then I want to talk about tabletop style, and then I want to talk about marionettes. So that would be topical. Maybe I want to talk about spatial. So maybe I want to talk about the different events that I attended. So the Puppet Festival in Asheville, and then the Puppet Festival in Atlanta, Georgia, and then the work that I did in Orlando, and then I could talk about the Eugene O'Neill Theater Conference in Puppetry last summer. And so that would be spatial because those all happened in different places. There was Orlando, Atlanta, Asheville, and Connecticut. Okay? We could do causal. So explain or demonstrate a topic in terms of its underlying cause and effect. Narrative, I can tell it like a story with characters, setting, and plot. Or it can be circular, how one idea leads to another and then to another, which leads back to the speech thesis. And see, any of these, if you have questions, you can get more. And so you see how it's going to give you an example. This is really helpful. So for today, let's go with spatial. Again, we're going to save, and then we're going to move forward. So maybe what did I say? Atlanta.
Connecticut?
Yep, and Connecticut. Was it Waterford? And you don't need to use all four, right? You could break this down into fewer. And you see how there's advice up here? Remember that these things are available. So the outline that I'm looking for, I want you guys to have these full sentences. So you'll want to go ahead and do that. All right?
Okay.
And so now you want to make sure that you're inserting points. So if I want to insert a point, please select a point where I'd like to, okay, great. So I'd like to insert a point in Orlando. But maybe I want to create an indent. Okay? And that means that the text that I'm inserting right here is about, is going to be about what happened in Orlando. So in Orlando, I was hired So I'm going to tell the story about how the puppet company hired me as an actor. Great. And then maybe I'll insert another point. And I don't know what that point would be. All right, so I think you get the point. Continue to do this. And these kinds of things are where you're going to get your visuals, right? So we're going to move forward. You'll want to have transition statements. And transition statements are, so I just talked about A, now I'm going to talk about B. So now you understand what the puppet culture in Orlando meant to me. Now I want to talk to you about my first festival. Something like that. So then we want to get to that introduction. So how are we gaining our audience's attention? How are you going to summarize your main points, your purpose, preview your main points? So you see how this outline has us start with our main points and what we want to talk about, and then we move on to the introduction. We don't write the introduction first because we don't know what we want to say in the body of that speech. So we move on to this. And now it moves on to the conclusion. So we're working through the conclusion last. So we want to signal that this is the close of our speech. We want to summarize our main points in a summary statement. So I've told you about my experience in Orlando. I've told you about the puppet festivals that I attended. And finally, I told you about the training that I went through at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Conference. And you can see that puppetry not only changed my life, but it gave me a focus. So that would be like summarizing your main points, repeating your topic and speech purpose. And so then we want to challenge our audience to respond. So the next time you see a puppet, think about the puppeteer behind that, behind those strings, or something to that effect. I don't know, and something. So when you do this, you should fill out all of those things. Now here's an opportunity for you to click visual aids, and this is going to be important for you for this next assignment. And the reason this is important is because you will be building your slideshow off of this. So maybe this would be picture of me with company. And then maybe this would be picture of Alice Baum's marionette. So something like that. And don't laugh at my spelling.
Oh, it's fine.
So we want to go ahead and talk about the pictures that people are going to be seeing, because as you'll learn this week, the visual aids that we're using in this class will be image driven. They're not just going to be a lot of text on your slides. So you can use a bibliographer if you actually use some external sources. This helps you correctly format your sources. But if you didn't use sources, that's going to be okay. And then you're going to want to download this. So what you'll see when you download is that the things that you have filled out will be there, the things that you didn't fill out will not be there. But in order for you guys to get full extra credit on this, I am looking for the full sentences and the visual aids included. So it's a little bit of work, but honestly it's work you should be doing anyway. And completing this outline is going to help you put together a better presentation. So you get a little extra credit for showing me the work that I thought you'd do anyway. And let me know if you have questions with that. All right, so that's the speech outliner. Yay. Any questions on that, Michael, since you're here?
No, not at the moment.
Excellent. Okay, moving on to the GoToMeeting, the visuals. So the teacher presenting this week will be Alex Reister. She's excellent. She does a lot of good work with visuals. She will hold 2 or 3 meetings that are live. Otherwise, it will be archived and available for you guys to watch. And there are questions, if you do not attend that you have to answer. There is a reading quiz due. The reading quiz is in speech class. And the reading quiz is right here. So these are our week 2 assignments. So we'll be reading Chapter 7, selecting your topic, Chapter 6, selecting your topic, Chapter 7, researching your speech, Chapter 8, using supporting materials for your speech. Remember, this week is all about visuals. and Chapter 14, using presentation aids. Then we finally have this weekly quiz that you are able to take. And you can take this quiz as many times as you like. So when speakers list all ideas that come to mind without evaluating any, they practice what? And so you'll be able to take this quiz as many times as you like. It's a 20-question quiz this week. Make sure you submit that on time. You are in complete control over the grade you get there. So your week 2 discussion post and response post. This week's question is, let's see if it's signed me out. It has, in fact. That's not mine. Okay, so this is about what not to do in online presentations. So this is going to be similar to last week, but this time you're finding a video intended for websites that does not work. So we want to use our levels of constructive criticism to explain very specifically what doesn't work. And so we're referencing the vocabulary that we learned last week about how to make about presentation skills and stuff like that. There will be 2 posts, so you do have to have a post and then a response post. And you want to make sure that you're answering all of these questions. So the first thing you're doing is you're finding a video, and you're going to include the link. You're going to embed that video onto the discussion board. Next, you're going to answer these 4 questions. Explain what aspects of delivery, both verbal and nonverbal. So verbal, that includes the words that we say. That includes our word choice. That could include the organizational style. That could include pronunciation, articulation, stuff like that. And then we have nonverbal. So nonverbal would include factors like vocal variation, pitch variation, rhythm, posture. Are they sitting up straight? Are they looking at the camera? Do you feel like they're talking to you? Are they tense? Stuff like that. What did they do poorly? And so once we've identified what they can do poorly, what they did poorly, we can talk about how they could make it better. So knocking somebody down for not doing something well isn't that awesome unless you say, hey, think about doing this. This is something you can tweak that would really make this better. So we also want to think about their recording setup, right? So we're thinking about lighting, setting, background, and sound. And then we were asking that question of credibility. So would I trust them? Who is their audience? Would I trust them? Stuff like that. And the reason we do this is that the idea is that you will take this evaluation and apply it to the videos that you personally make for this class. So ideally, you want to create a video that has excellent verbal and nonverbal delivery skills, and we hope to see you improve in those areas. Also, we want to make sure that you're able to, the videos you submit, have setting, background, lighting, sound that is appropriate, that does encourage you to, that does encourage people to perceive you as credible, right? So that's what this class is about. We're looking at other people. Hopefully, you will take your assessments here and apply that to the videos that you make. Now, that means that you probably need to watch the videos that you submit for this class. But that's just good practice with any assignment, right? So, step 3, it's all due Thursday. You're going to post these to the discussion board, and then you've got a minimum of 100 words response to your classmates' posting. And so you want to answer both of these questions. Cool. So the response post, these discussion boards should be pretty straightforward. Any questions, Michael?
No.
As the voice of the class?
No questions.
Awesome, thanks. All right, moving forward. So that's that. That's everything that's due on Thursday. So then we're moving on to that visual introduction assignment. So let's walk through that. So this is your second major assignment for this class. And it's just a slideshow with a voiceover. So it should be relatively easy. We're not asking you to focus on your delivery skills this week. We really are just asking you to focus on writing a speech that is organized, that uses effective visuals. So we're taking the focus off of the way you look and the way you are presenting yourself, and we're just focusing on your voice, we're focusing on your speech organization, we're focusing on the images and the way you actually design those slides. So everything is due on Friday. Response post and the initial post. I recommend strongly that you do this at least 4 hours in advance because speech class is slow. And if it shows up after 11:55, it will be counted as late. So just because speech class is slow does not mean that that gives you an excuse to submit late work. The length is 1 to 3 minutes, 10 slides. So I will be counting the 10 slides. You have a little bit more variation with the number of minutes. So what that means is that you will need to adjust the length that those slides show. The materials you're going to need MacBook Pro, PowerPoint, or Keynote, and access to the speech class website. What I would add to this is also I suggest using iMovie. One of the ways that I have found most effective to deal with slides is to export your slides as a video from your slideshow program. And when you import that, you can import that into iMovie, and then you can edit the length that the slides show from that video. So if you're doing the voiceover and you're finding that the voiceover takes a little too long or it's a little shorter than you anticipated, go ahead and edit that in iMovie, and that will be completely fine.
Okay.
So the sources that you're going to use, you want your visual presentation lectures from week 2. So you will be designing these slides in a way that we have been teaching you to design them. So make sure you watch the Nancy Duarte video, the Gar Reynolds video. Make sure you really pay special attention to Alex Reister's lecture. Those are all things that are going to help you create slideshows in a way that we are looking for. So here are the instructions. Often, as a presenter, you will be expected to have visuals. And so it's important to understand what works with those visuals. So we've all had that experience where we've really seen that death by PowerPoint, where we've got tons and tons of information written on these slides. And what happens when we have tons of information written on the slides, we end up reading the slides and we don't actually pay attention to the speaker. If that is the way you do your slides, there's really no reason to even have a speaker, right? Because we can get all the information we need from the slides that are there. So the way we are trying to teach you guys to do this is to really have a comprehensive package so that everything adds something of interest to the presentation. So first step is make sure that you watch that 3-part lecture series within week 2. They're really essential. Step 2, you're going to create the slideshow. It will not be longer than 3 minutes. I will not watch past 3 minutes, so make sure that all the content you want to include is included within that 3 minutes. If it extends past 3 minutes, I'm not going to watch the rest of that video. It will be considered as though it was not there. So your conclusion, for example, you will be graded on whether or not you have a conclusion. If that conclusion exists past the 3 minutes, you'll get a 0. So make on that portion. So make sure that you really do time your video. You must record yourself speaking along with these slides. This is a narrated slideshow. I recommend doing the narration within iMovie. That's going to allow you to have a little bit more control over your slides and how long they are and make sure that they coincide. Your last slide should be a reference slide. So anything that you reference within your speech. So if I was going to talk about puppets, I would probably want to reference some people that I thought were really intriguing. In that case, I'd probably reference their website. I might reference the Eugene O'Neill Theater Conference, and they have a website and they have documents. So make sure that you do that. Also, your references will include the URLs where you got your pictures, because we really don't want to plagiarize work. So the topic for this should be something that you already know about. So your favorite hobby or hobbies, your favorite dream job. You can talk about your hometown. The goal is for you to talk about something that you're already used to telling the story for. All right, and here are just basic reminders. We want you to keep it simple and meaningful. We want those slides to add to, not take away. We are avoiding the pre-made templates or bullet points. You'll learn more about that in the lectures. We're avoiding text heavy. So we're really thinking like 3 words or less on these slides. And remember to go ahead and reference those videos in the lecture series. That's what they're there for. And don't forget that you do need to speak over your slides. So you'll want to record your voice, and then you'll want to upload this to speech class. Now the response post that is showing here, this is actually not what I'm looking for. You will see that there is a separate assignment, and we're going to look at that really quick. I forgot to delete that, and I sincerely apologize. But the new response post is available, and we're going to look at that really quick. This is the visual introduction response post. And you can download that document. And it happens in 4 parts. So you're going to be responding to 2 classmates. So first, you're going to use the comments feature. So it is imperative that you upload your videos in speech class. If you do not upload your videos to speech class, if you have to use the discussion board feature, I will expect you to write the time codes of the moments that you are speaking about. So speech class is going to make it a lot easier to make those specific comments. So first, use the comments in speech class to label each of the following sections in your classmate's video. So label the person's open with impact, label their thesis statement, label where their final summary, label their entire final summary, and then label specifically what you think their closing statement is. So you want to make sure that your comments are adjusted so that they span the entire section that you are labeling. And there's a way to do that within speech class so that it highlights that entire open with impact. So we're not just labeling where the open with impact begins, right? We're labeling where the open with impact ends. So where does that start and stop? Okay, so second, use the comments feature in speech class to identify one slide that follows Nancy Duarte's rules for great slides. Okay, so in order to do that, you're going to have to watch Nancy Duarte's video. I believe it's Visual Lecture 1. And identify one of the rules that is present in the video that you're watching. And explain how the person that you were commenting on actually specifically reaches those rules. And is there something else that the person you are talking about, is there something they could add so that they could address a different rule? Because Nancy Duarte's rules, it's 5 rules, and ideally all of them exist within the entire presentation, right? So what can this person add to address those rules even more effectively? So third, we're using the comments feature in speech class to identify a moment in the presentation where the visuals add. So where is a moment where the person is talking and what they're saying is important and what the pictures are saying is important, and the fact that those two are paired together gives you a much better experience. And why? Specifically, why do the words paired with that picture, paired with maybe whatever word or two that person has included, why do those all together make that work better? And then fourth, find a moment where the visuals and what the person is saying do not work together, right? How specifically are the visuals taking away from your experience? And so how can that be adjusted so that everything worked together in a way that really gave you a solid experience? So when we're thinking about comments, especially on our peers, we don't want to say things like, that's great, or that sucks. And the reason we don't want to say general phrases like that is because that doesn't help me do things any better, right? Wow, this slide is great. Doesn't tell me what I did that worked. As opposed to, wow, you really chose some beautiful, crisp images on that slide. That really works for me. So that's a little bit different. Okay, so that's what the response post is. For the visual introduction assignment, make sure that you complete that. And after this is done, start to work on your industry speech. You are responsible for meeting with a partner over the weekend. You can use the doodle tool if you would like. You can call people. Hopefully you will have made a couple of friends with your group members. You can practice in groups of more than 2. You can practice in groups of 3 or 4. I don't care. But it's a minimum of 2. And go ahead and read those directions, because those directions are going to open up on Friday or earlier also. There's one more thing I wanted to do. Here are some slides that are going to be closer to what you might be making for yourself. So just to give you an idea. So what I want you guys to notice with these slides is that we're using large images. You'll notice that there are only 2 fonts throughout the slideshow, and the change is used for emphasis. You see how this is about your audience, and so that is the word that they have emphasized. You'll see the words are happening in the white space of the picture. You'll see that when there is only text, the text has become a graphic element. You see we've got this theme when they move on to different parts. Again, text as a graphic element. Notice that we don't have a whole lot of words on each slide. This is an important point. All right. So this is an excellent tool. I recommend this slideshow. And here are your questions. So we're going to go back to this slideshow. And this is your PSP weekly update. The questions that you will answer in the test. Question 1, what are Duarte's 5 rules for creating great presentations? List them out. So we did not cover that in this lecture, but you will need to watch the visual design lecture to be able to answer that question. Watch Gar Reynolds tonight. Pick your favorite tip. Question number 3, what are the steps for finding the speech class outline builder tool? So I went through those really specifically. Go ahead and write those out. Question number 4, when should I start working on my industry speech? Question number 5, when should I complete my pair practice for week 3? I didn't say that explicitly, but I'm going to say that right now. You should complete this as soon as possible. And more specifically, as soon as you have your first draft of your industry speech outline ready. So you will be able to see that industry speech outline on Friday, the same day that your visual introduction is due. So go ahead and start working on that as soon as possible. And then you'll be able to do your pair practice as soon as you have your first draft of your outline. And also when people are available, right? Because you can't do a pair practice without having people available. If your group completely ditches you, there are other things you can do for partial credit. But that really is if your group completely ditches you. But really, it's your responsibility to get this to happen. Also, if somebody is completely ditched by their group, I will offer extra credit for people who complete more than one pair practice. So go ahead and meet with somebody else, and you'll get a little bit, you'll get some kudos points there. Go ahead and help somebody out. All right. So that is the conclusion of the week 2 update. Michael, you were speaking for the class today. Do you have any questions?
Not for this week, no.
Excellent. All right.